What's up, guys? So unfortunately I've made a lot of video and my camera wasn't angled right, so I missed a lot of what I filmed. So I'm at the point where I've taken the valve assembly off, and they've got specific bolts. They've got specific bolts that go in here, that go down in here. And you, in order to get to those, you've got to take the cams off. Okay, you've got to take these cams off. The cams sit right on top like this. I got to be really careful with these because they're pretty brittle. But all of everything that I'm doing is bagged and tagged, right? So this is the cam chain and the inner tensioners. And so I know that all of the stuff that goes with the cam chain is in those bags. And then here are all my categorized stuff. For example, this is cam cap number 1 and the bolts that went with cam cap number 1. And on here I've made little notes because there's O-rings and stuff that the book calls out to replace. So when I go back to put everything together, there's a ton of stuff that needs to be new when you're putting your engine back together. So it's really important that you bag and tag everything and keep everything that is specific to a cylinder. Try and keep it all together. So when I end up taking apart the rest of the valve springs and the valves, because I'm gonna have to do a valve job on it, because I found out that my valves in cylinder number 1 are leaking. Cylinder number 2, 3, and 4 are not leaking, but the valves in cylinder number 1 are leaking. So unfortunately, this cylinder right here, and this is the one that I believe has the spun bearing. Okay, so I used those blue towels and I sprayed brake clean into the intake ports and the exhaust ports. So these are the intake ports, okay, and those are the exhaust ports. And what you do is you spray brake clean in there because the valves are pressed up against the head. They're pressed up against the head because of these springs. So you spray a brake, you know, some people have used gasoline, some people use brake fluid or brake clean, and you spray it in there, and then you rest it back down on paper towels like I did, and then you let it sit for a while and then lift it up, and if it's leaking, you'll see some wet spots. Okay, so yes, mine was leaking in cylinder number 1. So I've taken off the dowels, but this is essentially goes like this, right? The dowels are removed so it won't stay, but this is cylinder number 1 because here is the exhaust, you know, where you would hook up the exhaust manifold. So I'm at the point where I'm just going to take off the oil pan, and I've already loosened up these bolts. So I'm anticipating there's going to be a little bit of oil there, but I don't know. And I'm interested to see. I've already taken off the lower bolts, and I'm just in the process now of removing the rest of them. I'm interested to see what I find in here. that was a lot lighter than I thought it was going to be. Look at all that. Can you see all that? Man, I don't know if you can see all those shavings, but there's a ton of what looks like copper in there. Pieces of bearing. Let's see if I can get that big piece right there. You see that? Well, split the case, got down to the crankshaft, and that is the #1 piston rod and connecting to the journal, and clearly it's a little bit discolored compared to the other ones. So got to get that apart and see how much damage was caused. More than likely have to replace the crank, but I'll make a couple phone calls and see. But I've got to get underneath there and see what the journal looks like. Replace all the bearings. When I took the other half off that bearing, went with the underside. I split the case. Slow progress, taking my time, trying to figure out or make sure I'm doing everything correctly.